Hello and welcome to PCB Chat, where we talk with experts across the printed circuit design, manufacturing, and electronic supply chain fields. I'm Mike Buetow, President of the Printed Circuit Engineering Association. Mack Technologies is one of the largest family-owned EMS companies in North America, and probably the world. Headquartered in Westford, Massachusetts, it also has facilities in Melbourne, Florida, and Juarez, Mexico. It recently completed a move to a factory in Juarez that is more than double the previous plant's footprint. Today, we talk with President Will Kendall and Vice President of Operations Mexico, Oscar Gonzalez. So, Oscar's background, I have visited the plant in Westford a couple times. Obviously, I haven't been down to Juarez, and I have not been to the one in Melbourne either. I understand that you've made a substantial capacity expansion to the Juarez plant. Why don't you, if you can sort of briefly give me an overview of just what we're looking at today, the size of it, the number of SMT lines, and just kind of what spurred the changes.
Sure. So nice to meet you, Mike. First of all, so this move was stemmed from our growth. So we used to be in an 82,000 square foot facility. And over the past few years, we've been growing by leaps and bounds, and we ran out of space. As we continue serving existing and new customers, I think we made the strategic decision to move into a 2X building. So 164,000 square foot facility. We're occupying 50% of it with the strategic vision to fill it up in the next few years, right? So the new building is a state-of-the-art built-to-suit building. It's located north of the city, very close to the US-Mexico border, about 5 minutes drive, which is very convenient. Obviously, the new building, as it was built to suit, is the latest technology in construction materials. So tighter, most energy conservation, and so on. We had 7 SMT lines. We're installing an 8th one in this building. So now we will have 8, essentially by the end of this month. And the idea would be to double it, right? So go from 8 to 16, let's say, in the next few years. In essence, that's kind of the summary of the move. Will?
Yeah, I would add that a lot of the growth that we're seeing really is driven by existing customers, and we've been trying to support them, support their growth, and we needed to have additional capacity to be a good supplier and be able to grow with our customers. In addition to the fact that we are getting a lot of interest from potential customers that have seen our operation that are very interested in how Mack operates in Mexico. And we've seen a very large increase in demand that until we had the new building in place would have been challenging to accept new business. One thing I'll point out too on the building, because we've learned a lot, or we've tried to learn a lot from stories we hear from other companies that are relocating operations and relocating buildings. And I think one of the key criteria for this new building was that the location be convenient for our workforce. We didn't want to move the building and find out that the workforce didn't move with it. And so we actually selected a location that I think with our geo mapping analysis was a significantly shorter commute. I think, Oscar, was it for like over 80% of our staff?
Yes.
So when we moved, so we've been in production in the new building for just over a month now. And I think at least the latest information that I had from Oscar and the team was that turnover specifically due to the new building location being inconvenient for employees was less than 2% of the workforce, which we're very happy about.
What are turnover rates in Mexico compared to your U.S. sites?
They're higher. The market is higher. It's very nuanced. The truth is that in Mexico, the way the labor laws historically had been, there used to be, and Oscar, correct me if I'm wrong, but there used to be like a trial period of 90 days before employees would be permanent. And so I think historically the turnover rates are really high, but it's almost all driven by new hires that were within that window. And now I believe the law is different. So there is no trial period. But that same phenomenon still is in effect where if there's high turnover, it's almost always within the first 3 months of someone's tenure. And the tenure and turnover for employees beyond those first 3 months is generally a lot lower. But on average, turnover in Juarez or Mexico in general is higher than turnover in the United States. So
another important factor on turnover is the corporate culture. So you see variation of that turnover from industry to company to like Mack Technologies has been we've been working on this lean culture where everybody's voice is heard. And I think that our culture lends to have a better turnover than most. And so people want to work for Mac. And we, like Will was saying, within this move, just it's another proof that we retained the majority of our employees and workforce. So we didn't have same workforce, same employees, same equipment, all in the new site.
That answers one of the next questions I had really was, where was this relative to the old site? I wasn't sure whether you just added on to the old site or actually greenfielded completely new place. So it sounds like you really kind of packed up and moved.
It's probably what, Oscar, 25 minutes closer to the U.S. border, kind of deeper into the city than we were generally more on the outskirts before.
So we were close to the airport in the south part of the city. There are several industrial parks in that area. So we moved to an industrial park, Los Fuentes, which is very conveniently located 5 minutes from the U.S. El Paso, Texas, and Juarez, Mexico border. And from a logistics perspective, from import-export, as well as the ability to bring in customers, it's just really convenient. And we're in a very well-established industrial park in a brand new building. So
I'm taking a brief break to mention today's sponsor. This podcast is sponsored by PCB East, the original conference and exhibition for printed circuit design, fabrication, and assembly on the East Coast. Taking place April 11th to 13th in Marlborough, Massachusetts, PCB East trains engineers, designers, fabricators, and assemblers on making printed circuit boards for every product or use imaginable. From high-reliability military and aerospace to cutting-edge IoT and wearables, there's something for everyone involved in the electronic supply chain. Stay local, come to PCB East. For more information, visit pcbeast.com. And so then how big is Juarez now compared to Melbourne and Westford?
Juarez is,
164,000 square foot facility.
164.
900 employees.
Yeah, Melbourne's 145,000 square feet and Westford is 108,000 square feet. So employee-wise and square footage-wise, it's our biggest, but not by a huge margin, especially considering we're now working to grow the actual production.
It's been a few years now since I've been at Westford, but if I remember right, your equipment set was pretty similar from site to site. Is my memory correct? And if so, is that still true?
So that's still true. Our strategy has always been to have similar equipment platforms that we use. When you were here, I don't know when it was the last time, but the equipment set platforms have changed dramatically.
Yeah, you were Universal Shop then.
Yeah, we were a Universal Shop then. For surface mount, we still are Universal, except for everything now is Fusion. And we've standardized on a handful of other platforms as well. So we use Yamaha for 3D AOI, Omron for 3D X-ray, things like that. And so we've standardized not only on the equipment side, but also on the IT side. So we run one ERP system across the company. We run one MES system across the company. So we've tried to standardize on best equipment sets and best IT solutions, so that we've got as much efficiency as we can for continuous improvement. Mm-hmm. The equipment sets in Juarez are all the same equipment set kind of packages as Massachusetts. There are some small differences, but not many. So for specific customer reasons. So.
And then you're doing, besides SMT, you're doing box build and what else? Do I remember right? Are you doing plastics molding as well down there?
We do not do plastics molding in Mexico. So all of the injection molding operations are our sister division, Mack Molding. At Mack Tech, we really only do the electronics assembly and box build and full product fulfillment pieces of the business.
Can you handle the RF stuff in Juarez?
Oh yeah.
What types of programs are best suited for Juarez?
So right now, the best types of programs for Juarez, for Mack Juarez are generally in kind of industrial or ruggedized end market products where the volumes are generally fairly, we would consider them to be medium volume, but volume is a relative term. Yeah. But generally higher volume than the US, but we're generally not building millions of products. What usually works well in Mexico is where there is more labor content. If something is purely automated through machinery, then it can generally be built anywhere cost effectively. When products start to have additional labor requirements, that's when Juarez becomes a very, very attractive option for the customer, which ultimately usually fits our model as well. And with all of the changes with tariffs and the Section 301 tariffs with China and the logistics bottlenecks throughout the world, Mexico has actually become, in our view, one of the most attractive places in the world for building products that are destined for North America.
You talked a little bit about staffing, in terms of not losing people, but are the basics of finding qualified labor, are those obstacles similar in Mexico as they are here in the U.S.?
I'll let Oscar answer that.
Different dynamics, for sure. So Mexico, Juarez, we have 10 colleges, 10 universities where we draw highly skilled engineers from and planners and business management personnel. So we have really, I think the structure of the city government and the universities really supply all that indirect labor, no issues. The Juarez city as a whole has seen some growth over the past few years, and the growth also, there's a lot of migration from central Mexico to Juarez. So we've been very lucky to still have that pool of direct labor resource. We have not seen we've been, so as the growth in number of companies, we also have seen the growth in population. So we are at a point where we meet our hiring requirements quite easily. The challenge is being, turnover, absenteeism, just like in anywhere else. I think the city structure and universities and population dynamics has allowed any manufacturing in Juarez operation, as long as you have the right culture and the right operation, no problem in attracting high caliber talent.
Yeah, I would say just in general in the U.S., there are obviously labor shortages all over the country in almost every industry right now, and manufacturing is certainly not immune to that. And from our perspective, it has been easier to attract greater numbers of workforce in Juarez. I don't want to speculate why that is, but on a relative basis, we're finding it easier to scale up with a larger workforce in Juarez than we are seeing it to be in the United States right now.
Going back to when I first started in the industry, which was 91. The word from EMS companies in Mexico was often that large numbers of employees might pick up and leave for another factory down the road because they offered better meals in the cafeteria and things like that. Is there a lot of poaching that still goes on between the EMS companies? Because there's quite a few of them, right, in that area, that general area.
It happens. But I think the best companies that are retaining talent, it's no secret. I mean, we do taste contests on the cafeteria providers, so they have to be well established. In Mexico we have a saying, barriga llena, corazón contento, tummy full, happy heart. If you provide great food and great service, there's statistics on this. There's been studies on what are the three key elements of what people are looking for. Number one, competitive salary. Number two, tasty food in the cafeteria. Number three, being treated with dignity and respect. So, and training, the amount of hours you provide your employees training and how you engage to them. So those are just statistically speaking, though, the four factors that drive retention higher. And those companies that meet that, those are the ones that win and have lowest rates of highest rates of retention. And no matter, we've seen this, that a company may try to poach folks, but I think for the most part is you have to be very competitive, and we have seen people leave Mack and then come back to us. So we're doing a very decent job at that.
Would you say you do most of your training in-house, or are there local or nearby training centers that you rely on?
90%, I would say, is in-house training, from health and safety to IPC to manufacturing to all kinds of training that we provide. Every now and then we rely on outside training services.
When you move the factory, walk me through the process. Do you do it piecemeal, line by line, or do you shut everything down on Friday and Monday it's all up and running in the new building?
Oscar didn't have any of that gray hair until a few weeks ago.
Yeah, it was all black. So I think it goes back to, I've done a couple of moves in my previous career, but I think 90% planning, 10% execution. I think we've been planning on this move for about 12 months. And we really had a very smooth transition. We moved in 3 weeks. We basically was 24/7. We partnered with the right transportation companies, with the right contractors to set up the new building. And we've been working on this for a number of months. So it was lots of planning and making sure, we go come up with plan A, plan B, plan C. And so very successful move, 3 weeks, all 7 SMT lines and all of the box build, all of the warehouses. I think I calculated 100 trips just in moving raw materials and equipment, and about 25 trips of heavy equipment, all insured. So yeah, we had a great team. The transition team did a great job, and very, very stressful at times, but we were working 24/7.
Yeah, I think Oscar hit on a really important thing. I mean, the entire thesis for the expansion in Mexico really boils down to the team. Oscar and his team have done a fantastic job keeping customers happy with very high quality and very predictable delivery. And through the team's efforts, they have grown the business very substantially. And all of the indications we have from our customers are that they're very pleased with what the team has done, and it's the same team that that was in charge of the building move. And again, the team executed very, very well in exactly the fashion that we would have expected the team to execute in. And the move to the new building really is a vote of confidence in the team, because we believe that the team can continue to grow the business very effectively with very high quality and very happy customers.
I think in the beginning, Mike, you asked what caused to move. I think Will hits that very good point. 7 Supplier of the Year awards over the past 4 years. A great vote of confidence from our customers in high levels of quality, high levels of customer satisfaction. So customers are really happy, and they're giving us more and more business, and we continue growing. And that's how we run out of space. Basically, the old facility is kind enough to allow us to continue growing and invest in that growth. So a lot of reasons, but I think just to point that the strong team we have here, very lean, Six Sigma oriented, high levels of quality, and that's one of the other factors that contributed to the decision of moving, right, and expanding.
When you do a move like this, does it trigger any mandatory recertifications or requalifications by customers, ISO, any of those types of organizations?
We did. We partnered with each customer. Each customer is different, and based on each customer needs, we either provided, first article inspections or certain level of quality recertifications or requalifications. That's from a quality perspective. From a building perspective, we obviously had to recertify the whole facility and obtain all kinds of permits, right? The Mexican Environmental Protection Agency, regulatory, Federal Electricity Commission, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, it was a full making sure that the building complies with all permits.
As far as our ISO certifications, though, those traveled with us, right?
Those traveled with us. ISO 9000, 13485, those traveled with us. Industria Limpia, Clean Industry Certificate travels with us. We will have to recertify in due time, in a year time, but we retained all of our certs.
Now, I want to talk a little bit just about, how programs migrate through the Mack facilities. Does a given program tend to stay, if it's sold at Westford, does it stay there, or are things still kind of scaling to Juarez?
I would say every customer is unique, and we've probably implemented every type of structure you can imagine. And we always work with the customer to come up with whatever the right structure is for their business and whatever their needs are. And I would say that we've likely done every strategy at this point. So we're pretty good at pinpointing which ones we recommend to customers, but we work with customers to come up with what the right strategy is, whether that's, launching in the US and then transitioning to Mexico, or starting in one site and staying there, or, diversifying the business across multiple sites for risk mitigation purposes. We've really seen and done it all. And so it's a really unique situation for each specific customer, and depending upon what their needs are and the complexity of their own supply chains.
Does each plant have its own procurement group, or is that centralized?
Each plant has its own procurement team, which is responsible for procuring for the specific operation that they report into. But we also have a senior supply chain members that oversee supply chain across the whole company.
So then would you try to consolidate buys across programs, or is everything kind of program specific?
We look strategically to make sure that our buying practices are getting the best consolidation effort we can. But when we buy parts, buyers buy specific to the customer, to the customer documentation. And so our strategic supply chain team looks to essentially consolidate business with suppliers and ensure that we're getting the best value we can for our business and for our customers. And so it's a little bit of a hybrid, I would say.
Okay. And then would you, under given circumstances, do you move material from one factory to another, even if a program isn't moving, simply to shore up a shortage?
Absolutely. Assuming we will absolutely rebalance materials if it makes sense. We would never do it in a way that would penalize the customer that planned well versus the customer that didn't plan well. But we historically, we've because we use one ERP system, we've built a significant number of tools that allow us to rebalance materials very easily, whether that's to fill shortages or to work with customers to limit material exposure. We can, at the push of a button, identify where materials can go, and also, in the reverse way, to say what materials can come in to fill a shortage if any of the parts are elsewhere within the plant or even within the other Mack plants that we could ship in. It's the beauty of having one IT system. So.
And I can't remember, do you offer design services at any of your plants?
We offer design for manufacturability and design for test. We don't offer just design from scratch services. So.
What benefits or advantages would you say that having the new facility up and running, gives Mack and its customer base that didn't previously exist?
So, number one, we're going to have significantly more scalability to continue to grow with our customers. That's number one. Number two, it's more of a purpose-built facility. So we're envisioning significant benefits from being able to apply more lean manufacturing principles to the new operation that we can hopefully gain efficiencies from. Number three, it's also in a much more central location. So we believe that it will actually help us not only retain but attract new talent and make sure that we're staying competitive within the Juarez market.
Finally, does this forecast any changes in Florida or Massachusetts in terms of expansion there as well?
No, we're also potentially looking at expanding in those sites in terms of capacity with equipment. We're seeing significant growth in customer demand essentially across all three of our facilities. The difference being our Florida location has physical space that we can still grow into, as does our Massachusetts site. Whereas in Mexico, we just run out of physical space.
Do you own the buildings in Florida and Massachusetts?
We own every building within all of Mack, including Mack Molding, with the one exception being Mexico.
Yeah. Okay.
So
yeah,
Mexico's our only leased building. So.
Yeah, when Oscar said industrial park, that said to me, that's a lease.
Yeah, exactly. It's a lease. That's the only building that Mack leases. We generally don't like leases, but in this particular case, the location is so perfect for our operation that this made sense for us.
How are things right now getting product, across the border in either direction?
Across the U.S.-Mexico border, I'd say are good, right?
Yeah, it's. I think it will back to normal. Normal standard. You still have to get product across the international border, go through customs, and there's obviously a delay there. So that's come down. I think during COVID, the last couple, 18 months, 12 months, we did see a spike, but I think it's back to normal. I think they both customs, US and Mexico have added resources and product flows because constantly. And so really not an issue right now.
It's one problem after another bringing product in from overseas right now, whether it's the boat can't reach the port or the container can't reach the boat, or if the container comes off the boat, then it can't reach the truck or the rail. I mean, and honestly, it's one of the reasons why we really think that Mexico is just such an appealing option to companies that are looking to supply the North American market with their products. It's just it's a mess trying to bring parts in, and it's expensive now too. It's become very expensive to bring parts in from overseas.
Yeah, from a supply chain perspective, it does make sense. I think companies and this direction everybody's moving towards is common sense, right? If your customer base is in North America, Mexico, Juarez is perfect for location to ship to. If your customer base is in Asia, you have Vietnam, you have China, or if you're in Europe, you can stay in Slovakia, in an Eastern Bloc country. So I think Will's right. I think Mexico is really appealing to the largest consumer base in the world, which is the United States, North America, and we, it just makes a lot of sense to be here.
I think you guys are sort of the epitome of consistency.
It's pretty consistent. We have our strategy. We don't try to be everything to everyone, and we're pretty upfront. We talk to potential customers about what we're good at and what we're not good at, and where we fit into the world of electronics manufacturing. And we try to be the best at our niche and really excel and do the best we can for our customers in that in that profile, in that target profile. So nothing's changed on the strategies.
Well, Oscar, it's very nice to meet you, and congratulations. I hope this all goes very well for you. Will, it's always a pleasure to talk with you. For PCB Chat, this is Mike Buetow. Have a nice day.